"You're becoming a burden." That's what my son told me. Not in anger, not after a fight. He said it at breakfast, calmly, the way you explain something to a child who keeps asking the same question. His wife sat across from him at my kitchen table and nodded, slowly, with that particular look on her face. Patient, settled, like she'd been holding the thought for a long time and was relieved someone had finally said it out loud. I was 64 years old. I was standing in my own kitchen, holding a dish towel. "We just think it might be time to look at some options," my son continued. "There are communities now, really nice ones. People your age, activities, support." "Support," his wife echoed quietly, like a second signature on a document. I set the dish towel on the counter. I didn't say a word. There are moments when silence is the only dignified response. And I had learned, over 64 years of being a woman in rooms where my voice was treated as optional, exactly when those moments were. My son mistook my silence for agreement. He always did. That was the central mistake of our relationship, and he had been making it for years. My husband passed 18 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. 12 weeks from diagnosis to the end. I won't speak much about those 12 weeks, except to say that by the time it was over, I understood the difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a state. Being lonely is a hunger. I was alone now. I was not hungry. My son came to stay 6 weeks after the funeral. Temporarily, he said. He was worried about me. His wife arrived the following week with 3 suitcases and a blender she plugged in before she'd unpacked a single sweater. Their daughter, my granddaughter, 16 at the time, 17 now, arrived on a Friday with a backpack and an expression that told me plainly no one had asked her opinion about any of this. My granddaughter has her grandfather's eyes. Quiet, watchful, always reading the room one sentence ahead of everyone else. I told myself those first months were what family looked like after loss. Messy, close, overlapping in ways that shape but ultimately hold. I told myself this longer than I should have. By month 4, my car keys had migrated to my daughter-in-law's purse without any discussion. By month 6, I was eating dinner in my room twice a week because they had friends over. By month 8, I had been moved out of the master bedroom, Harold's and mine for 27 years, into the small room at the end of the hall, because my daughter-in-law's sister needed a comfortable place to stay during a visit that lasted 11 days. I moved without making a scene. I told myself it was temporary. Then came the Tuesday morning with the dish towel and the word burden. After they left the kitchen, she had a conference call. He had something to check on his laptop. I stood at the counter for a long time. The coffee maker finished its last gurgle. Outside, a mockingbird was running through its whole catalog in the oak tree. Harold loved that tree. He used to say, the mockingbird was the most honest bird because it never pretended to be only one thing. I was not going to cry. My crying had already been done, and it was for someone who deserved every drop. Instead, I walked to the small room at the end of the hall and closed the door behind me. In the closet, behind the winter coats, there was a canvas tote bag I'd bought at a museum gift shop in 2018. Inside it, a prepaid phone still in its packaging, a spiral notebook, and a card from an online bank I had never once mentioned to anyone. 6 years ago, my mother's older sister passed away and left my mother a small piece of land in eastern Tennessee. My mother, practical the way women of her generation were practical, which is to say absolutely and without sentiment, sold it within the year and divided the proceeds among her children. My share came to just under $160,000. I did not tell Harold, not because I didn't trust him. I trusted him completely. But we'd had a hard stretch those years. His business had gone through a rough correction, and our savings had taken a long, slow leak, and I didn't want the money absorbed into the household the way water gets absorbed into dry ground. I opened an account at an online bank, named no beneficiary, told no one, put the card in the museum tote bag and the tote bag behind the winter coats and went back to my life. Harold's business recovered. Our savings stabilized. I never touched the account. After he died, I checked it for the first time in 2 years. With the interest, it had compounded. Careful, quiet, steady. It had grown to $191,200. I was not going to die broke. I just needed everyone to believe I might. That afternoon, while my son was on a call with the door closed and his wife had taken my car to an exercise class I had not been invited to. I opened the prepaid phone and made an appointment. The financial advisor's office was in a low brick building near the library, the kind of place that didn't advertise, that operated on referrals and discretion, and the quiet trust of people who had learned, often the hard way, to be careful about who knew what. His name was Alden. He was in his late 50s with reading glasses he kept pushing up and a mechanical pencil he used on a legal pad. No motivational posters on those walls. No coffee in a branded mug. No absolutely after every sentence. I liked him within 2 minutes. I told him the situation plainly. 64, widow, retired schoolteacher, son and daughter-in-law living in my house, a separate account they knew nothing about. I wanted to protect it, establish a trust, and name my granddaughter as the primary beneficiary. He asked 3 questions. Did they have any legal access to my finances? No. Did I have a current will? Yes, but it was old and named my son. Did I want to change it? Completely, I said. He nodded. Not with surprise, with recognition. The recognition of someone who had seen this particular story before, dressed in different particulars but the same essential shape. We spent 2 hours on the structure. A revocable trust to start, a pour-over will, clear beneficiary designation. I wanted my granddaughter to have enough for college, for a first apartment, for the kind of cushion that lets a young woman make choices from confidence instead of desperation. I wanted to give her what I wished someone had given me when I was 17. Proof that someone believed she was worth investing in. Your son will have no claim? I asked. None, Alden said, unless you choose to include him. I don't, I said. I took the bus home. I have always liked the bus. Nobody on the bus needs anything from me. That evening, I made tea and sat at the desk in the small room with my spiral notebook. I had started it 2 weeks after my son and his wife moved in. A habit from 30 years of teaching, where documentation was the difference between a misunderstanding and a record. It had grown into something more specific than I originally intended. Page 1. My son's car insurance, added to my policy at his request, without any arrangement for reimbursement. $214 per month. Page 2. Groceries. I had been buying food for 4 people, including my daughter-in-law's specialty items, the oat flour and the 3 varieties of sparkling water, and the expensive yogurt she ordered online and I paid for when it arrived, on a credit card linked to my account since the month they moved in. Average, $680 monthly. Page 3. My granddaughter's school supplies. Her parents had missed the deadline. I'd bought everything on the list, $143. I noted it without comment. Page 4 through 11. Everything else. Car repairs, I'd covered. The weekend they went away and I'd watched the house. 2 months of their streaming subscriptions when they'd asked if they could put it temporarily on my card. The new mattress for the master bedroom my daughter-in-law wanted. My granddaughter's winter coat, because I had noticed her wearing last year's with the lining coming out at the hem. The total, not counting my car or my room or my time, came to $24,310 over 14 months. I closed the notebook and held it. I was not keeping this record to demand repayment. I was keeping it because I wanted them to see, when the moment came, what they had treated as invisible. Just numbers, just dates, just facts, beyond argument, entirely in blue ink. 2 days later, I went to see my attorney. Her office was 3 blocks from the library. She was a careful, direct woman who asked hard questions and did not apologize for them. We went through everything: revocation of informal arrangements, a new will superseding the old one, a letter of intent in my own words. Everything notarized, nothing mailed to my house. All documents held at Alden's office. You're explicitly excluding your son, she said, not as a question. Yes, I said. He may challenge it. That's what the documentation is for, I said. She almost smiled. Then we'll make it thorough. I walked home by way of the park. Harold and I had a bench there, second from the left, near the willow, beside the small pond. I sat and watched the ducks for a while. I wasn't sad. I was something harder and cleaner than sad. I was decided. That evening, my granddaughter knocked. 3 soft knocks, then waiting. I'd told her once that's how you know someone was raised with consideration. She'd smiled when I said it, surprised in a way that told me she wasn't used to being noticed. She folded into the armchair the way teenagers fold themselves, all angles, knees pulled up, sleeves over her hands. She looked at the window for a moment before she spoke. "They were talking about you," she said. "After dinner, about the house, about what happens if you have to go somewhere." "And how did that make you feel?" I asked. She thought about it carefully, like it wasn't their decision. "You're right," I said. "It isn't." She looked at me directly then. "Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm awake." I took an envelope from the nightstand drawer. I had written it 2 nights before, not the bank envelope which was locked away, but a letter. Her name on the front in my handwriting. "Don't open it tonight," I said. "Open it when you need it." She took it with both hands, held it the way you hold something you understand is fragile, not because of its materials, but because of what it represents. "Are you leaving?" she asked. "I'm getting ready to," I said. "Not tonight, but soon." She nodded once. Then she leaned forward and hugged me. A real hug, no agenda, no performance. Just one person saying to another, "I see you, and I'm glad you're here." I had not been held like that since Harold. The confrontation came on a Saturday, earlier than I planned. I had left the spiral notebook on the kitchen counter. Deliberately opened to page 1. My son found it before I came out. He was in the hallway, holding it when I came through. His wife stood behind him. My granddaughter was not home. "What is this?" he asked. "My record," I said. He looked at the page, then at me. His expressions cycled through disbelief, then irritation, then something that wanted to look like concern, but was really the beginning of an argument. "You've been tracking us?" "I've been tracking what I've spent on this household," I said. "Every payment I made while you were here. Every time I said yes because I didn't know yet how to say no." My daughter-in-law's voice came from behind him, clipped and careful. "We contribute to this home." "You live in my house," I said. "That's not the same thing." My son set the notebook on the counter, gently, because he wanted to seem calm. He was not calm. I could see it in the stillness of his shoulders. "Mom, I think we all just need to take a breath here. We've been trying to help." "You told me 4 days ago I was a burden," I said, at my own table. Silence. "That word," I said, "was not a slip. It was the word you'd been thinking for a long time. I know, because I've been watching you think it." I looked at my daughter-in-law. She looked away first. I kept quiet because I thought staying quiet was the price of staying close. It isn't. It's just the price of staying quiet. I didn't raise my voice once. I had decided years ago that composure was the one thing that couldn't be dismissed. The one currency they couldn't devalue by calling me emotional. "I've made changes," I said, "to my finances, to my estate. Everything is in order and in the hands of my attorney. I'll be leaving this house at the end of the month." My son's face went very still. "Mom, this is my house," I said, "which means I get to decide what happens in it." I went back to my room. I heard their voices in the hallway, low and urgent, shuffling through shock into calculation. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the photograph on the nightstand. Harold and me at the coast, maybe 15 years ago. He was squinting into the sun. I was laughing at something he'd just said. I touched the frame once, then I started to pack. The apartment was on the other side of town. 2 bedrooms, 1 to sleep, 1 for my books and my desk. The landlady had shown it to me in under 15 minutes and said, "Water pressure is excellent. Neighbors keep to themselves. It's quiet." I had signed the lease the same afternoon. On my last morning, I stripped the bed in the small room, folded the sheets, and left them on the dresser. I did not leave a note for my son or his wife. I had said what needed to be said, and the documents in my attorney's office said the rest. My granddaughter walked me to the door. She was carrying one of my tote bags, the one with the library books I was returning on the way. At the threshold, she stopped and looked at me. "I read the letter," she said. "I know," I said. "I didn't know about any of it." Her voice was quiet, the account, all of it. "I kept it quietly," I said. "Because quiet is what you do when you're not sure who's listening." She looked at me steadily. "I'm listening." "That's the whole point," I said. I hugged her at the door. When I pulled back, her eyes were bright, but she wasn't crying. She had her grandfather's composure, feelings present, held close, spent only when chosen. Visit, I said. Obviously, she said, and that one word, the way she said it, held more warmth than a paragraph could have managed. The cab pulled away from the curb. I didn't look back at the house. I had spent 31 years learning every imperfect thing about it. Now someone else could learn them. The apartment smelled like fresh paint and a little like cedar. I stood in the empty living room and set my purse on the floor and simply breathed. The refrigerator hummed. The window showed an ordinary street, a boy on a bicycle, a woman with a small dog. Somebody's wind chimed 3 houses down, making its disorganized, cheerful music. I sat on the floor, the furniture was coming Thursday, and opened my new notebook. Plain cover, college ruled, bought at the drugstore on the way. I wrote the date at the top of the first page. Then I wrote, I am not starting over, I am starting right. Alden had confirmed that morning. The trust was fully funded and irrevocable. My attorney had filed everything. The account was mine. The decisions were mine. My son had not called. My daughter-in-law had sent a single text. I hope you know what you're doing, which I read once, set my phone face down, and did not answer. I did know what I was doing. I had known for longer than I'd admitted. The difference was that now I was doing it without asking anyone's permission. 3 weeks later, I started tutoring again. 2 afternoons a week. A 4th grader from the neighborhood who was struggling with reading. Her mother called me a godsend. I called it a reason to leave the apartment at 2 in the afternoon, which turned out to be exactly the kind of reason I needed. My granddaughter visited on a Saturday morning. She brought good coffee from the place near her school and sat at my small kitchen table. Secondhand, just right for 2, and we talked for 3 hours. She was thinking about art school. She was afraid to tell her parents. I told her what I told all my students when they were scared of something true. Say it out loud once, just to yourself, and see how it sounds. If it still sounds right, it's worth saying to someone else. She said it out loud, I want to go to art school. It sounded right. Before she left, she held up the envelope. She'd brought it with her, tucked into her jacket. I've read it 4 times, she said. Good, I said. You wrote that being quiet isn't the same as being kind. She folded it back along the creases with care. I've been thinking about that. So have I said, for about 60 years. She laughed, not at me, with something. Some kind of recognition that travels between people who have been paying attention to the same hard truth from different distances. I stood at the window after she left and watched her walk down the street, collar up against the October air. Unhurried, like someone who knew where she was going even when she didn't. The money was never really the point. The money was just the form my silence had taken. Every dollar handed over without discussion. Every room vacated without protest. Every morning I said fine, and nothing's wrong when everything was not fine, and something was very wrong. All of it was the same currency. I had been spending myself for years on people who had stopped noticing the cost. The account didn't make me free. I had always been free. I had simply forgotten how that felt when someone kept telling me otherwise. If any part of this story landed somewhere familiar, the dish towel, maybe, or the word burden, or the moment when someone you loved smiled at exactly the wrong time, then I want to say something plainly before I finish. You are not too old, you are not too late. You are not the total of what you have given away. Whatever you have kept, a savings account, a quiet decision, the private knowledge of what you are actually worth, that belongs to you. It has always belonged to you. They may have taken your patience. They may have taken rooms and your good years and the comfortable chair by the window. They may have mistaken your silence for consent and your love for an open door. But they have not taken you. You are still here. You are still exactly on time. And if today is the day you finally say enough, quietly, completely, without explanation or apology, let that be enough. Let it be the first sentence of the next chapter. And let them figure out for once what your absence actually costs.